So today I wanted to present a different method of explaining, because I've had requests in the past from students to do more of the whiteboards, which I was doing a year ago or so while I was touring in Asia. So on retreats, conducting retreats. So today I wanted to talk about the role of sannya's, perceptions, and their relationship to suffering. So sannya's, a little bit crooked, that one. Much better. Sannya's leading to dukkha. So how do sannya's, when we have the long a, by the way, that usually means plural. And this is the first time we're trying to do this with the iPad and the pen. I guess it's called the iPen. So if the lines don't come out so smooth, apologies for that. So sannyas oftentimes are neglected, our perceptions. These are not some other people's perceptions. So sannyas come in all shapes and sizes from different places in our past, in our present, but primarily from the contacts we undergo. Contacts, in Pali, they are presented as phassa, come in through the six sense doors. So the six sense doors are always giving us information about the world, the way we feel, the way we perceive. Perceive as in, remember, saññā. Perception, saññā. The way we hold on to concepts. Again, we're talking saññā. And whether it's coming from the body, whether it's coming from the eyes, whether it's coming through the ears in the form of sounds, body through touches, tastes, smells through the nose, and the mind, which takes us back to saññā. So often we look at contact itself, phassa, as an aspect of paticca samuppada, dependent origination, or dependent, law of dependent arising, the 12 factors of dependent origination. So contact ends up being one of those ingredients. So in that sense, contact becomes in a conceptual thing. It's very sterile. It's very abstract. But when you're dealing with the six senses, what that means is we're talking about life. Whose life? Your life. Your life, with which you are trying to understand and eliminate dukkha. Dukkha. And that's why we have the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the remedy, is providing us the remedy to eliminate, destroy, get rid of this guy right here. But it's not a separate thing. It's not another concept. Just like contact itself is not a concept per se. Through contact, we understand, we interpret, we process, we translate. So, sannñā or saññās or perceptions have a special place in our practice, but not separate from the role that we must give to us. There will be a lot of lines, as you can tell. This kind of reminds me when I used to be a high school teacher and I would cover the whole whiteboard, and it was a lot bigger than a 9-inch iPad screen, which I'm trying to squeeze in as many of the concepts that I would like to address. And I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So I'm recording this also, so you can go back to it as necessary and take screenshots of it if you like. But to continue, I just will erase this, and I think yes, okay. The magic. How great it would be if avijjā gets to be erased like this. Well, that's why Lord Buddha taught the Dhamma for 45 years. Just to do that, to get this blank screen. And that is what happens, not as a result of suppression or repression, which is what I was discussing in our last meeting as I was doing the first part of the Potthapada Sutta from the Digha Nikaya, number 9, where the yogic traditions were all about suppressing in the form of the jhanas. Lacking wisdom, that's what you get. You suppress because of the power of your mind. You can think that you've actually overcome those hindrances, even the sankharas. But the moment you come out of that samadhi and rejoin, go back to your life, they're there to salute you in full force. So we don't have that to worry about, because this Dhamma and discipline of Lord Buddha, the Dhamma and Vinaya, as Buddhism is originally expressed, the dispensation, the Dhamma, the sasana of Lord Buddha's, the Arya Savakas, the noble disciples, is one that gets us to Paññā, the way to free ourselves from dukkha. Now I want to go back to Saññā. So if we are to look at the cause of dukkha, dukkha can come in many different shapes and sizes. There's dukkha of the body. Everyone can relate to that. There's dukkha of emotions, of the heart. There's dukkha of the mind, right? But we can just generalize them under one title, one umbrella term called dukkha. In order for dukkha to start somewhere, if we were to take a few steps back, we will find, you guessed it, Saññā. So, sannñā, the perceptions we have in our mind. If we look at how they come about, we will see that they have some kind of a source. A source that takes us to it. And that source, that trigger, if you will, is what I was mentioning earlier. Contact. But where does, let's go back to sannñā for a moment. Where does sannñā take us? What is the relationship to dukkha, which I was mentioning earlier? If we are following the thread carefully, then we will see that sannyas themselves will take us to vitakka, vichara, thinking and pondering. Does that sound familiar? Earlier, I was talking about sankharas, right? Sankharas well, plural. Sometimes it's written in singular. We'll actually go with the singular version here. So sankharas are, if you recall, kaya sankhara, vachi sankhara, and mano sankhara. So here, vitakka vichara, as we learn from the Chula Vedalla Sutta, from the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses, we see how the Arahant Tere, Bhikkhuni, Dhammadinna, was instructing the lay disciple, Visakha, her former husband when she was a laywoman, who was, by the way, an anagami. She was addressing his questions on how to attain the state of sannñā vedaita nirodha samapatti, the cessation of feeling and perception. So in that beautiful sutta, she mentions all these three, of course. But in the case of vachi sankhara, because vachi also means speech, voice. So one would think that it has to do with the body, the speech, and the mind. So the speech has to do with the lips, the mouth, the teeth, the throat, the larynx, etc. But we have to understand that vitakka vichara are also to be comprehended as Bhante Nyananda mentions, sub-vocal speech. Now, what's happening here? So if you notice, I mentioned about sannyas. So once you have sannyas, it doesn't stop there, does it? You start talking to yourself. You start speaking to yourself. You start saying things. Why does this happen to me? Why has this been happening to me? Why are they treating me like this? Talking, 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 talking. Mentally. All started from where? Saññā. But does it stop at vitakka vichara? Does it stop at subvocal speech? Does it? No. Where does it go? What does it do? You've heard me mention this many, many times. So, vitakka vichara will end up taking us to agitation. Agitation. When the chitta, when the heart is agitated, you're the farthest from nibbana. The heart needs to be in state of santutti, contentment, and this is the opposite of contentment. What is it then? Therefore, is there a name for that? Yeah, we call it the big D, dukkha. That's what we have. So do you see here how we started from saññā? Saññā doesn't stop there, as I mentioned. It goes to all those marbles that keep, like you put a few pieces of marbles in a box and you shake it. That's the head. That's the mind. You will not get such a mind experiencing samadhi. Why? Well, because of this guy right here, saññā. And we know now how the subvocal speech itself does not just stay as a benign, even if you're talking positive psychology or trying to give yourself some affirmations or some positive determinations or things of that nature, still it is agitated, which causes dukkha. Now, does dukkha stay there? No. So we see here, I want to go back now to saññā. Remember Lord Buddha's statement to Magandiya from the Sutta Nipada, which I've covered with you a few months ago. He mentions how sannñā virattasya nisanti gantha, paññā vimuttasya nisanti moha. For the one who has detached oneself from sannñā, there cannot be any more bonds, any more shackles. And for the one who has liberated oneself through wisdom, there can be no delusions. So saññā then has everything to do with shackles, obviously. But the shackles themselves have a lot to do with, if not everything to do with, ignorance, moha, delusion. But we often hear how phassa, contact, as I mentioned earlier, has everything to do with your connection to life. But how can you stop contact? Can you stop? Is that what Dhamma, the Lord Buddha, is that what he is trying to tell us? Eliminate contact. Is that what he's saying? No. Lord Buddha, the Dhamma is not telling us to become automaton or to just unplug and become a zombie. No. None of the arahants were zombies. They were truly alive, unlike the rest who are patijjanas. But coming back to sannñā and the relationship to phassa, contact. So we saw how phassa is the leading instigator of sannñā. But how does one deal with phassa? And remember, phassa are basically the six senses, right? I mentioned. We have in Pali, salayatana, which are basically the six sense bases that are eyes, right? And it doesn't stop there. Eyes and forms, right? The objects. We have the ears, sounds. We have the nose and smells. We have the tongue and taste. We have the body, and we have tangibles. And we have the mind. And ideas, concepts, also usually in Pali it's written as Dhamma, or mind objects, lowercase d here, etc., mind objects. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That all these represent phassa. But how does phassa become polluted? Well, phassa becomes polluted because of asmimana. The I am conceit. It says, this is happening to me. How come this is happening to me? I am special. My pain. This belongs to me. My happiness. Oh, my joy has been taken away. My dukkha. What? My dukkha. So asmimana, and by the way, if you have read or have heard me mention in numerous suttas how an arahant becomes an arahant because they have overcome the conceit I am. I am conceit. It has everything to do with identification. You take it as your identity. What identity? I am identity. Well, I am can't just stay or exist in a vacuum in space, somewhere like that. No, it needs to have these six. Remember, the contact represents contact with what? Or the world internal and the world external. The world internal and the world external. So you see how asmimana, the conceit I am, the presence of which indicates one thing. What? I'll write it here. Avijjā. Avijjā. You know, you've heard me say avijjā is stupidity. It's not ignorance. Ignorance is a noun. But avijjā requires effort from us. It requires work from us. It requires effort from us. So it is a term that I began using this week for avijjā rather than stupidity, because some people might argue stupidity is also a noun, it's something that lands, or you land in it, or you step into it. But to kind of address that, and also to highlight the presence of efforting into it, I feel much better to call avijjā as neglect, actually neglectful, ignoring. It is not ignorance, folks. Avijjā is not ignorance. Ignorance, it's almost like you cannot take any, responsibility for it. Again, it's a noun. It's happening. It has happened to you. But ignoring the ing indicates your participation, your willful participation to be and remain what? Neglectful. The opposite of vidya, which is avijjā. The opposite of wisdom. But how are you ignoring? How are you being neglectful? Remember dukkha? This actually turns more into the infinity sign, actually, when you think of it. Right? So if we were going like this, coming down like this, it will be into asmimana, right? So you see this figure eight? This figure eight? Ooh. Coming down like this. That figure eight here is where we find yoniso manasikara. This is the culprit. This is the, call it the evil one. Lord Buddha's Dhamma and discipline is not the result of, is not based on the foundation of some miracles like other religions in the world that give themselves the credence, give themselves the authority of being something not mundane, supramundane, something beyond, a spiritual something. And if you dig deep enough, you will come across a set of miracles, things that are of a supernatural nature. And people go ahead and believe in those things. And the whole entire religion is based on that. But here, in this Dhamma and discipline, the beauty of it is that it doesn't rely on miracles. What does it rely on? The absence of this, which takes effort. Which takes effort, which requires us to do the opposite, to remove the exit out, to create in us yoniso manasikara, wise, radical attention. Wise, radical attention, or wise reflection. So I'm going to erase portions of this because it's gone really messy. So you see here how technology is wonderful sometimes when we use skillful means to use it, right? So here it was ayuniso, right? So we mentioned how this was ayuniso, but what we need instead is the opposite of this, which is yoniso manasikara. If one were to ask, having understood all these different aspects of the Dhamma, if one were to ask, well, what is the core, essential, most basic, tiny little, like bite-sized spine of the Dhamma that you think Lord Buddha taught? What is it? Could you narrow it down, please, Bhante? Here would be that essence of the teaching of the Dhamma. This was missing in all of the spiritual paths. This was missing and is missing and will be missing when there is no more Dhamma. Here is the criterion with which you can come out of this loop of this infinity loop, which I like to call it the closed loop of suffering, or dukkha. Closed loop, if you notice, it's closed. Samsara is a closed loop. That's why it's impossible for anyone to leave this cycle of rebirth, this unending cycle of rebirth. That is, until Lord Buddha broke it, cut it with the set of scissors that is yoniso manasikara. That's the only way. Yes, it is a categorical statement. We need to be appreciative of categorical statements in this very lukewarm world that we're living, where anything goes. Wisdom and stupidity and ignorance are piled together. Yes, let's be kumbaya, let's be one and all, let's be together. It's like, yeah, we're all the same. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That's what we have. People are jumbling up the Dhamma with adhamma, many of which is coming from such stupid statements. Commentaries are coming from none other than bhikkhus, shamelessly. But anyhow, that's not our problem, so long as we are able to understand what's what. That's why I'm putting in this much, this effort to help however way I can to See what it means to have ignorance. What is ignorance? What is? It's all years of, decades of studying the Dhamma. You can, it becomes almost like a habit of repeating these mistaken statements of ignorance for avijjā. It's ignoring. It's a continuous, it's a present continuous tense. Well, you have to bring in your own practice sati. Sati, 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 sati. Your mindfulness has to be present. And when we speak about mindfulness, we speak about Samādhi. Samādhi is none other than yoniso manasikara, wise radical attention. Well, radical, it comes from I think the Latin, right? Roots. Yoni is the matrix, is the root, is the essence. So you're placing the mind or doing the mind. Kara here is to do. It comes from kiru in Sanskrit and Pali. Mana here is the mind. Manasikara means focusing the mind. In other words, attention. But attention placed where? Doing the mind, or attention, putting the attention of the mind upon what? Yoni, the root, or ayoni, what is not the root. Hence we say unwise radical attention. Remember the six senses bringing you contact? That will not stop. Contact, so long as you're alive, will always take place. Let me go back and, well, let me erase a portion of this. So you understand this, I hope the infinity. That's why images are so much better. I prefer, but we don't always have the means, and the technical difficulties that I encounter sometimes are far too many. Well, I do what I can. But anyhow, here, when we talk about the root, again, we're talking about contact being the root. So I'm going to erase here. Leave maybe Saññā. And maybe here too. So when we have sati present, then it means, so long as there's Sīla, of course, that goes without saying, which is the virtue, virtuous living, your precepts that you take, 5 precepts, and you have Samādhi. These are the 3 trainings, by the way, which is mental cultivation, and then third, obviously, we have the third of the 3 trainings, Paññā, which is the wisdom, to see, to understand. So this path is the wisdom path. It is for those who want to gain wisdom, understanding. That will never happen if you take passa, your contact, to be with the world, as this is happening to me. identification is the opposite of wisdom. Opposite. An arahant will never identify with the fact that they are arahant. An arahant will never say, I'm an arahant, to prove a point. They will do their very, very utmost to avoid saying it. Now, again, they have to use conventional language. But what I'm trying to say is they do not identify even with the state they are in, the state of arahantship. That's why when they make contact with the world, what they have is just contact with the world. That's it. So there's no more I am seeing, but there is just seeing. They don't say, I'm seeing a beautiful image or an ugly image. They're just seeing. But what allows them to say that? Because when the eye sees a form, before it gets into the story, remember that's contact right there. This is contact. Before it turns into a sannñā, guess what? Yoniso manasikara comes to the rescue. It's there, not comes to the rescue, but it's already there. That's why your sati is imperative to be there. Sati, sati, sati. Imperative to be there at every one of the 6 gates, 6 doors, the 6 senses. It's essential. Why? Because it will take you out of avijjā. No one will take you out of avijjā except for you. But so long as we are neglectfully ignoring, it's an adverb, ignoring neglectfully, we will stay in the closed loop of suffering. Samsara. And do not blame anyone. Please do not blame Lord Buddha, because you are not putting enough of yourself into your effort. You're a Buddhist by name. You're a Buddhist or Dhamma practitioner by name, by association. But the spoon will never taste the soup. Remember that. It's not something I'm making up. That's from Lord Buddha. There were many spoons around Lord Buddha, as there are today. But are you going to be one? Another spoon? That's the question. Will you do something about it? About what? About ending this infinity, closed loop of dukkha that you've gotten yourself into. Each of us is responsible for our own dukkha. No one else is. Both the dukkha of the past, the dukkha of the present, and the dukkha of the future. And this Dhamma is supposed to be teaching us to take responsibility. To no longer be a spoon. Instead, taste the soup. So no more of this. Practice sati. Remember, all you have to do is just practice the 4 establishments of the Satipatthana. The 4 establishments of the Satipatthana, or the Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. The body, you can do it in the form of the breath, bodies, positions, etc. You have the body everywhere you go, so long as you're alive. Use it. Sati. No more excuses. Vedana. So long as you're alive, you're having some form of feelings. Enjoyable, pleasurable, painful, and neutral. Watch them. Even this guy, this neutral, which is the majority of the time that we're feeling, that it doesn't ring any bells for us because it's not a big deal. Painful, we know that very well. Pleasure, that's what we're seeking all the time. But we somehow are very disinterested, indifferent towards neutral. But that's where the action is, Lord Buddha says. That's where you find the doorway to Nibbana, if you know how to do it. And how do you do it? Remember this? Sati. Observe. Don't wait for your feelings or sensations or experiences to be either one of these 2, painful or pleasurable. No. They're like the pendulum, going this way, that way. Meanwhile, the majority of the time it's here, going back and forth. So that's the painful, that's the pleasurable. But the neutral is right here all the time, most of the time. So watch that, Vedana, that feeling. Chitta is the heart, the states of, or the mind. Is it tranquil? Is it calm? Is it experiencing equanimity? Is it muddled up? Tense? Is it unhappy? Is it depressed, etc.? Is it agitated? All of which, as a meditator, you've gone through. You know them. So be aware of them through sati. And dhammas are the different states, mind objects, hindrances, nivarana. You have even the sambojjhangas. You have the 5 aggregates, etc. Even 4 noble truths. You can apply them. Watch, observe. Observe how the breath enters your nose, and then leaves your nose. But it has a beginning, the breath coming in, and then it has a middle, and then it has an end. Inhale. And then the opposite direction happens, right? Exhale. Now we go this way. But here too, there's a beginning, and here too, there's an end. Nibbana could happen at any one of these points. But in order for that to happen, you need sati. And if you're applying sati correctly by going at the root of the experience, of the contact, then what you have is inadvertently, or actually unmistakably, you have yoniso manasikara. And what that means is it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before you experience the opposite of dukkha, which is the breaking of this cycle. And you give yourself the greatest gift, other than the gift of giving yourself being responsible for the birth of this body at a time where the Dhamma is still available and be able to understand. That's a huge gift you've given yourself already, to be occupying this body as a human, to be able to understand these concepts and to ponder them. That's a huge gift, but it's not enough to break through this vicious closed loop of dukkha. And that gift is vimukti, freedom. Freedom from dukkha. So I will stop here, and if there are any questions, please send them my way, and I'll do my best. I'm very busy, but I will do my best. May you all be well. May these, I hope I'll be able to do more of these every once in a while to help you in your progress. And in order for there to be progress, you need to turn the Dhamma into action, not a noun. Not a noun. Otherwise, we're back to neglectfully ignoring avijjā, and wasting another life. No, let's give ourselves a wonderful gift that this life could give us. Sukhya. May the Triple Gems blessings be with you all.